Welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time and initiative to learn MS-900, which is Microsoft 365 Fundamentals examination course. My name is Sushant Sudish and I'm going to be your instructor today. This exam, MS-900, validates a learner's fundamental knowledge of Microsoft 365. So without wasting any more time, let's get into it. As we discussed before, in this particular course, there are 4 modules. The first module, what we are going to go and see is what are the cloud concepts. Within this module, there are 3 lessons. The first one is principles of cloud computing. The second one is all about what are the different types of Microsoft cloud services available and what are the things you need to know for this particular course. And the third lesson for this module is migrating to cloud services. So the first lesson is principles of cloud computing. Cloud computing plays an increasingly important role in IT infrastructure. And as such, IT professionals need to be aware of fundamental cloud principles and techniques. This lesson introduces the cloud and describes considerations for implementing cloud-based infrastructure services. After this lesson, you will be able to describe what cloud computing is, describe evolving IT operations models, and you will be able to describe business drivers for the cloud. And finally, you will be able to explain how an organization can use these tools and services in Microsoft 365. So what is cloud computing? So the cloud computing is the delivery of computing services such as servers, storage, databases, networking, software analytics, intelligence, and more. All of these services over the internet that is being called as the cloud. Instead of maintaining the CPUs or the RAM or the storage in your data center, cloud computing enables you to rent these cloud-based computing services from a cloud service provider. It could be Microsoft, could be Google or AWS or anyone. In this module, we are going to talk about Microsoft cloud services. When you use the cloud, you shift the certain responsibility to the cloud service provider so that you can focus on other things such as your business or application and less on underlying technologies like how the server work, how the virtualization work, things like that. You leave that responsibility to the cloud service provider like Microsoft. And the cloud service provider maintains this underlying infrastructure, platform, and services for you. Let's understand some of the cloud computing characteristics. When you talk about cloud, the services which you are going to get in cloud is going to be on-demand self-service model. If you need a particular service, you log into a portal and you particularly access that service from a portal, or you subscribe to a particular module or a software. All of these can be accessed from anywhere because the cloud services is available everywhere. Most of the cloud services offer the elasticity capability, which means that these services which is available in the cloud can be easily scale up and scale down as well. And finally, all of these services are a measured service. What does that mean? Any service within Azure, when you consume it, it is going to be consumption-based model. You pay for what you use. So why does a cloud computing change the cost structure? It is mainly as a result of shift from capital expenditure to an operating expenditure. A capital expenditure are the cost associated with buying or upgrading physical hardware, such as server, networking equipment, and storage. It also includes real estate such as building or data center space. Typically, the physical resources are amortized over several years. Instead of deducting the full cost of the equipment in the first year, you deduct a portion of it each year. Operating expenditure or OpEx are the cost that an organization incurs while performing its normal business operations. This includes the electricity consumed, the cost of the employees to manage and support systems, office space, and internet connections. In a traditional on-premises data center, you will have to pay for the following items like storage, server cost, networking, backup, disaster recovery, your infrastructure, and your technical personnel cost. A server cost is nothing but your hardware components and the cost of the hardware support. Storage costs include all hardware component and the cost of the hardware support based on the application and level of fault tolerance. Network costs include all hardware component including cabling, switches, access points, and routers. This also includes wide area network and internet connections as well. Backup and archival cost is the cost to backup and copy or archive data to the cloud or data center. And your disaster recovery or BCDR, along with server fault tolerance and redundancy, you need to plan for how to recover from disaster and continue operating. And data center infrastructure cost, these costs include the electricity, floor space, cooling, the building maintenance, etc. And finally, the technical personnel is based on the technology you use. You will need technical expertise and workforce to install, deploy, and manage the systems at the data center. Let's look at the cloud computing cost. With cloud computing, many of the costs associated with an on-prem data center are shifted to the cloud service provider. Instead of thinking about physical hardware and data center cost, the cloud computing has different set of costs, which include leasing a cloud-based server. If you lease a server or use the cloud, the cost is usually based on pay-per-use model or pay-as-you-go model. When you use pay-per-use model, you have to actively manage your subscription. You must ensure that users do not misuse the cloud. Let's understand the types of cloud computing. A cloud deployment model defines where your data is stored and how your customers interacting with it. Cloud computing is flexible and enable you to choose how you want to deploy it. The cloud deployment model you choose depend on your budget, your security, and scalability and maintenance needs. Public cloud, this is the most common deployment model. In the public cloud model, you have no local hardware to manage or keep up to date. Everything runs on the cloud service provider's hardware. This means that the information technology infrastructure, which includes the hardware, server, software, and other infrastructure items, is located somewhere other than your data center, and it is managed by the third party. Some of the advantages of public cloud include lower cost, no maintenance cost, near unlimited scalability so that it is on-demand resources are available to meet your business need, high availability, etc. This model offers a simulation of public cloud to users, but you remain entirely responsible for purchase and maintenance of the hardware and software services you provide. An example of a private cloud would be an organization that develops virtual machines that use proprietary peripheral devices. Some of the advantages of private cloud include more flexibility, improved security, and high scalability. You have to purchase the hardware for setup and maintenance, and private cloud require IT skills and expertise that can be hard to find as well. And finally, a hybrid cloud combines public and private cloud, allowing you to run your application in the most appropriate location. For example, you could host a website in the public cloud, but link it to a highly secure database hosted in your own private cloud. A hybrid cloud deployment provides failover capabilities between local resources that you manage and resources in other regions. Some of the advantages of hybrid cloud include control, flexibility, the compliance requirements, the cost effectiveness, and the ease of use. Some hybrid cloud concerns you will need to watch out for are sometimes it can be more expensive than selecting just one public or private deployment model. Let's look at the types of cloud services available. Cloud computing has three major categories. It's important for us to understand them because they are referenced in conversations, document, and trainings. So it's very important for you to understand these concepts thorough before moving forward. The first one is called IaaS or Infrastructure as a Service. The second type is called PaaS or Platform as a Service. And finally, SaaS or Software as a Service. IaaS or Infrastructure as a Service is the most flexible category of cloud services. It aims to provide you the complete control of the hardware that you run your application. However, instead of having to purchase the hardware such as server, switches, routers, storage area network, and firewall, with IaaS, you rent it. Virtual machines can be quickly deployed using this IaaS model. Second, Platform as a Service or PaaS. So PaaS provide an environment for buying, building, testing, deploying, and running software applications. Therefore, it would not be recommended cloud model for organizations looking to deploy a service such as Exchange Online. A common example of a PaaS is a custom web and mobile application that securely connect to an on-prem data center. And finally, SaaS is the software that is centrally hosted and managed for the end customer. Example of a software as a service include Microsoft 365, OneDrive for Business, Microsoft Outlook for Web, and Exchange Online. When you try to compare these services and try to pick the best one, always try to pick the best for the customer, which offers the right choices for the services you're trying to host in the cloud. If you go with Infrastructure as a Service, like we talked about, this is the most flexible cloud service available under public cloud. If you would like to just manage your application and you are looking for a application development platform, you use PaaS services. And finally, if you want to go with a pay-as-you-go model, you tend to look into a software as a service model as well. Let's understand the cloud computing considerations for privacy, compliance, and data protection. Privacy, for instance, when you depend on a cloud service provider, you are relying on them to keep your data safe. This could be from loss, theft, and misuse by third parties. So what does this mean for your company considering adopting cloud computing services? You need to ensure your cloud service provider is helping safeguard the privacy by reading the cloud service provider's privacy notices, considering how the cloud service provider handles disaster recovery and business continuity, and finally, you need to understand how the hosting company handle the security breaches. Compliance, for example, many organizations have regulations and policies they must comply with. For example, companies working in health industry have to follow HIPAA. These policies can be quite complex based on the type of industry, geographical location, and organization and company-based policies. All these regulations pertain to cloud computing. If you store any of your data in the cloud, you must ensure that your cloud service provider follows all legal and regulatory requirements. So do your due diligence before signing any contract. Then after the contract is signed, take steps to ensure that compliance is maintained to protect your company and your customers. And finally, data protection. When running services and storing data in the cloud, you should follow the standard best practices for security, just as how you would do on an on-prem network. Always use strong password, ensure the passwords are changed regularly, perform regular auditing and monitoring. Let's learn some of the top benefits of cloud computing. Cloud computing is scalable. Cloud computing supports both vertical and horizontal scaling. Vertical scaling, also known as scale up, is the process of adding resources to increase the power of the existing server. Some examples of vertical scaling are adding a faster CPU, or adding additional CPU, or adding more memory. Horizontal scaling, also known as scale out, is the process of adding more servers that function together as one unit. For example, instead of having one server processing incoming requests, you have two. In the context of cloud computing, scale out is typically the more desirable scenario. As an organization's workload changes from a spike or a drop in demand, a cloud computing system can compensate by automatically adding or removing resources. For example, imagine your website is featured in a news article, which leads to a spike in traffic overnight. Because the cloud is elastic, it automatically allocates more computing resource to manage the incoming traffic. When the traffic begins to settle, the cloud notices it has too many resources allocated and begins to remove them, thereby saving your money. Another example of using cloud is agility. You would be able to give the resources, the tools, and the services which is required for your business in the cloud because it is always available for you. Disaster recovery is easy to configure. By default, cloud service providers have solutions in place to make sure your data and the services you are hosting is available in case of a disaster. Another cloud computing key benefit is cloud computing is cost effective because cloud computing provides a pay-as-you-go pricing model rather than paying for hardware upfront. Another key cloud computing benefit is cloud computing is always current. When you use the cloud, you're able to focus on what matters most, running your business that is most key to you. You don't have to divert resources for software patching, system configuration, upgrades, and IT management tasks. All of this is done automatically for you. And finally, cloud computing is reliable. When you're running a business, you want to be confident that data is always going to be there. Cloud computing providers offer data backup, disaster recovery, data replication services to make sure that your data is always safe. Why is empowering all the employees so important? As organizations today undergo digital transformation, technology has become a critical component of how people perform the vast majority of their work. This includes information workers and first-line workers. Information workers includes those in office roles such as business, sales, accounting, engineering, administration, management, and design. These are the people who gather information and use technology to gain visibility into your state of the business. First-line workers include customer service, support, and repair technicians. These are the people who sit on the company's first line and are commonly the first point of contact for customers. These employees need the right productivity and collaboration tools to empower them to do their best work. Microsoft 365 improves enterprise collaboration, provides a modernized system that is continually updated, and increases productivity of your modern workforce no matter where your employees are and what devices they are using. That's the end of the lesson 1, which was principles of cloud computing. Now you would be able to describe what cloud computing is, describe the evolving IT operations model, and describe business drivers for your cloud as well. And finally, you will be able to successfully explain how an organization can use the tools and services within Microsoft 365 to elevate all employees, including first-line professional information workers, into a modern workforce. Next video we are going to see is lesson 2 of module 1, which is going to be Microsoft Cloud Services. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next one. Peace.